U.S. President Donald Trump has said he will speak to Saudi Arabia's King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud about the disappearance of Saudi writer and U.S. resident Jamal Khashoggi. The American leader spoke about the situation to reporters in Ohio ahead of his campaign rally Friday and revealed he'll be getting on the phone to hold a conversation with the Middle Eastern royal. "We're going to find out what happened with respect to the terrible situation in Turkey having to do with Saudi Arabia," and the reporter said about journalist who went missing after entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul October 2. "I will be calling at some point," King Salman. Scrolled down for video. Trump, 72, said that the United States was one of many countries looking very hard and fast to get to the bottom of the story after Khashoggi vanished when he entered the building to get documents for his upcoming wedding, but his wife-to-be never saw him again. "A lot of people are looking to find out because it is potentially a really terrible situation," Trump said. Khashoggi was a critic of the Saudi government, and Turkey's government has reportedly told U.S. officials it has audio and video proof he was killed and dismembered that day. A delegation from Saudi Arabia has now arrived in Turkey as part of an investigation into his disappearance, Turkey's state-run news agency Anadolu said. Share this article. Share. Saudi Arabia has called the allegation it abducted or harmed Mr. Khashoggi baseless. However, it has offered no evidence to support its claim he left the consulate and vanished despite his fiancée waiting outside. Turkish officials have said they believe he was murdered there. U.S. officials say they are seeking answers from the Saudi government and are not yet accepting the Turkish government's conclusions, and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says he is planning on going to a major investment conference in Saudi Arabia despite MAN CEOs and journalists pulling out over concern for the Khashoggi story. Mediate LLC privacy policy. However, former U.S. ambassador to Saudi Arabia thinks it's bad news for America's relationship with the kingdom that Trump and First Lady Melania Trump visited in May 2017. They went on the tour with Trump's daughter Ivanka Trump and her senior advisor to the president's husband, Jared Kushner. "I think this is the worst moment in U.S.-Saudi relations since 9/11, Robert Jordan told MSNBC, reports Mediate. "I arrived in Saudi Arabia as ambassador a month after 9/11, and the question then was, are the Saudis friend or foe? I think we've got similar questions going on right now." KSA's new crown prince has been praised on one hand for relaxing rules on cultural norms in the country, but Khashoggi wasn't entirely positive about the new regime. Jordan added that the younger royal, 33, feels like he can do whatever he wants and get away with it. "Is this a regime that is descending on a slippery slope into authoritarianism, thuggishness, and perhaps rogue behavior?" he continued. "And I think we've got to seriously ask that question. I think the time has come for us to stand up and show some leadership on this issue." Meanwhile, Morocco's justice minister has confirmed that the country handed the former head of security to the Saudi royal family back to Saudi Arabia in 2015 on the basis of an Interpol notice. He reportedly disappeared days later. The confirmation from Mohammed Ojjar came in response to the reports of Mr. Khashoggi's disappearance. Ojjar said Turki bin Bander, who fell out with the Saudi royal family and fled to Paris in 2012, was arrested in Morocco on November 11, 2015 under an international warrant issued by Saudi Arabia for disturbances of public order via internet and for committing financial crimes, and extradited to Saudi Arabia 5 days later. The Washington Post reported that Turkey disappeared in 2015. On Thursday, Turkish presidential spokesman Ibrahim Kalin said Turkey and Saudi Arabia would form a joint working group to look into Mr. Khashoggi's disappearance. The 59-year-old journalist, who was considered close to the Saudi royal family, had become a critic of the current government and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the 33-year-old heir apparent who has introduced reforms but shown little tolerance for criticism. Mr. Khashoggi had been living in self-imposed exile in the United States since last year,